Welcome back to Market Day Report. Tommy Grisafi sitting in for Tony St. James. I got to tell you, what a privilege and an honor it is to be here in Nashville. I now live in Nashville, working at Nesvick Trading right down the street. If you ever make it to Nashville, you got to come visit us. I promise you they'll buy you lunch, and if you're behaved, they might even buy you dinner at the old Villa Castriati. That's a fan favorite at the good folks at Nesvick. If you know, you know, but the owner of Nesvick owns an Italian restaurant here. We love to entertain. Let's entertain you with some grain quotes. You may not be happy. It may give you agita, as us Italians say, but let's get right into corn. Look at that market here. The corn table here, SEP corn, 383 and a quarter, down 4 and a quarter. Not a happy corn board here. December corn, 406 and a quarter, down 3 and a quarter as harvest pressure continues. March corn, 423 and a quarter, down 3 and a quarter. We have what's called a carry in the market. As you see, SEP is 383, then 406, 423, 433, 440. So if you hear people like me, commodity brokers, saying, let's go catch some of that carry and then try to get basis appreciation, what we're talking about is that the cash markets are really doing poorly. Not only do you see the front month futures down, but you see the cash markets down. If you stick around for Cow Guy Close, I got Brian Split on today from agmarket.net. He's going to explain all that to you later this afternoon. Anyway, getting back to the quote board, May corn 433 and a quarter, down 3 and a quarter. July corn 440. We want to catch that carry if you can, but you need to have a bin or a plan here. All right, SEP soybeans looking better. SEP soybeans 1031 and a half, up 2 3/4. No beans 1052, up 2 1/2. And again, there is carry in the soybean market, looking all the way out to the May soybeans. 1098 and a quarter, call it 11 if you like to round up numbers, up 2, but you have to hold those beans all the way to May, and there's a cost of money to do all that. Let's head to Chicago, where I grew up at the Board of Trade here. SEP Board of Trade wheat, 502, barely holding on to that 5 handle, down 7 1/2. Deese wheat, 524 and a quarter, down 7 1/2. March, 542 3/4, down 6 3/4. Let's head over to Kansas City. Kansas City wheat, SEP 485, down 8. As we come in the first notice day here, December hard red wheat, 512 and a quarter, down 5 1/2. Let's head up north to spring wheat. We snagged one of those North Dakota boys. We have a new employee here at Nesvick Trading, our very own Sawyer Satcham out of Mayville, North Dakota, actually Portland, North Dakota. Just moved to Nashville today, so congratulations. We're importing those commodity brokers from North Dakota all the way down here. Let's talk about that spring wheat grown in North Dakota, 582, down 7. Let's look at cotton, and we'll get out of here. 6506, 6673 in the descent. Let's take a little commercial break, and we're going to come back and talk about all the dynamic things happening in livestock when Market Day Report returns. Welcome back to Market Day Report. Well, we do have our guest on the phone. I want to quote up the market, and then we're going to head right to our next guest. Let's look at live cattle. Live cattle, a dynamic board here. August live cattle up 347, 245.97. Oc live cattle 241.17, up 297. Let's head over to feeders, and then we'll head over to Arlen over there and see what he has to say, because I know he's got his finger on the pulse. August feeder cattle up 265. That contract's expiring. SEP feeders 368.95, up 390. Let's head over to hogs. Is the cattle complex dragging up the hog market? We'll see. Oct hogs up $1. Deese 86.97. Let's bring him in. The star of the show, Mr. Arlen. Arlen, how are you? I hear you're on the phone. Arlen with StoneX. Tell us, Tammy asked me on the last segment, when are cattle going to make a high? I said, Tammy, that's $1 billion question. But I'll ask it to you, and we could laugh together. What's going on in the cattle market?
Yeah, I'm coming to you from Farm Progress Show in Decatur, Illinois, and that's a big question here as well. When are they going to make the high? And frankly, it comes down to the consumer. Now, with the speculative longs we have in this market, it's always possible we get some type of a headline that scares them out of those positions. But so far, they're really holding. And the fundamentals of supply and demand are certainly still there. Doesn't mean we can't have a sharp correction if the funds get chased out. But, you know, if you got a heifer that you can get these kind of prices for, or you can hold her to rebuild your breeding herd and get a return 3 or 4 years from now, it's pretty hard to not just go ahead and feed her out now and sell her and get your money now at these prices rather than hold her and hope you get your money several years from now. So we still aren't rebuilding the cow herd. We're still tight. We have the 50% tariffs on the Brazilian beef. Protein supplies are tight. We just got the cold storage report showing that overall beef supplies are tight. Pork supplies overall, it varies by cut, but it's relatively tight. Poultry supplies are tight. And so the market's saying we've got to build these supplies, and you do that with higher prices to get investment. And the consumer's still there. As bad as consumer confidence surveys show the consumer's feeling bad about the economy, they're still spending money for protein because today's diets really focus on protein. And so that's the focus, and the consumer wants beef to be a big part of that.
Yeah. I don't know if this is a question you can answer in 30 seconds, but if they're continuing to spend money at elevated beef prices and they only have a certain amount of budget, where was that money coming from, Arlen?
Well, overall, when you look at it, obviously there are those who hurt, but there are those who have it, and it's a wealth effect. And wealth effect in America tends to be if your 401k is doing well and your house is appreciating in value, you feel comfortable spending money, and both of those things, for the most part, are still happening.
Arlen Suderman joining us from the Farm Progress Show, and I think you'd agree with me, my friend. No one ever says, let's go out and celebrate and have a salad. I hand it back to Tammy here as we continue on here.
Very true. I want that steak on my plate.
Absolutely.
Thanks,
Medium
Tommy.
rare, by the way.
Me too.